Welcome to the Aboriginal channel. This episode will be another part to Aboriginal forts and castles. So right here we're looking at Fort St. Philip's in Louisiana. It says St. Philip's is a historic masonry fort located on the eastern bank of the Mississippi River. Pause. So down here it says it was built in 1746, right here in Plaquemines Parish. That's this parish right down here, right here where there was Civil War battles out, right here. It doesn't give a name for who built it. It says the current fort was constructed along with Fort Jackson as a coastal defense for New Orleans and the Mississippi upon the urging of Andrew Jackson. Goes on to say that it was the site of a 12-day siege in April of 1862 by Union forces during the American Civil War, which was the decisive battle in the capture of New Orleans. Okay, right here it says the capture of New Orleans during the American Civil War was a turning point in the war. Now, to break that down a little bit, we got to go over here to another book. This book is called A Guide Through America's Historical Places. It says Vicksburg National Military Park. It says this park was the scene of a siege of Vicksburg in 1863, the decisive Civil War campaign in the West that gave the Union control of the Mississippi River and divided the Confederacy into two. So when we go back over here and look on the map right now, so it's saying that Vicksburg all the way up to Kentucky right here was a long chain of fortifications that when they got control of Vicksburg right here, they broke the Confederacy into two. Now, in a previous video, we seen that a castle right here in St. Bernard Parish had a railroad port called Proctorville connected to it. So we can presume that the fort over here off the coast right here in Plaquemines Parish also had a railway. Now here's a map of some railroads that were there before the Civil War. And as you can see, there were railroads down in the New Orleans and over into St. Bernard Parish. However, just because we don't see a railroad from Plaquemines right here doesn't mean there wasn't one connecting. So this whole line right here was connected to Vicksburg. When they took control of Vicksburg, it cut their route off going down here. So all of these battles that was going on down here in this area was cut off at that point from all these other battles right here, which the Indians were exchanging materials and equipment and peoples or what have you. So that's what I presume they meant when it cut the Confederacy into two. Now remember, all these different leagues of Indians called themselves Confederates, like the 6 nations up here in New York were the Iroquois Confederacy. And these were all confederacies 100 years plus before the onset of the Civil War. But we got to go back here for a sec, where it says the capture of New Orleans during the American Civil War was a turning point in the war. That was in 1862, where down in New Orleans, they got control of the railroads right then because it said it was the turning point in the war. So in 1862, the Union got control of this route, all these tracks right here in 1862. Then in 1863, they took control of basically the Vicksburg route, which connected a lot of people right here in Natchez and all of through here in this area of Louisiana. These railroads connected the people. They came in 62, then 63, got control. Now that took away all their supplies, all their people, and what have you. Now it goes on to say that it was heavily damaged in 2005 during Hurricane Katrina and Rita. According to the National Park Service, the owner reported that only the original brick fortification of the site and the concrete structures from the time of the Spanish-American War remain. So in 1746, they built this, the Indians, because although it says right here the first fort on this location, Fort San Felipe, was constructed in the 18th century during the period of Spanish control of Louisiana, we know that the Spanish never controlled Louisiana, and that's a lie. And they always do that to write our people out of history. Now, it should be noted that this 1746 fortification built by American Indians is not too far off from this 1695 fort in St. Augustine, Florida, that American Indians built and fought and died at. As you can look at this map of the so-called Civil War battles, we can see that right here where it's lit up green at, right here, that's where that St. Augustine fort is at, where Civil War battles occurred at. Then when you go over here, Fort St. Philip is right here in Plaquemines Parish, where there were Civil War battles at. And in the previous video, we talked about Fort Proctor right here in St. Bernard Parish, where it says the guy who supervised the building of it was over here in New Orleans for 7 years, making sure a building there didn't sink. Now, it should be noted that the fort sits up against the Mississippi River right here with its back to it, which is a classic American Indian tactic. Through the history books, which has all been a lie. So therefore, if it's a lie, then what's the truth? If it's a lie, then what's the truth?